Indiana basketball's three-point shooting as a team has to be better than it was last year, right?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On College for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Well, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers who choose to make this your first spot to be each and every day. We're going to talk about and tell you why I think that there's no possible way that Indiana football doesn't go over that 8.5 win total that FanDuel has us at right now. Plus, Indiana football, speaking of them, they pick up another commit in the 2026 class, and the rankings just keep on climbing. So we'll talk about all that later. But the three-point shooting for Indiana basketball, a year ago under Mike Woodson, before he ultimately lost his job, it was horrific. It was terrible. It was one of the worst in the country in terms of actual production and efficiency behind the three-point line. And you start thinking about this and you start looking at what you lost versus what you gained and who left and who's coming in. And the three-point shooting has to be better this year, right? I mean, it's impossible for it not to be better. And you start to look at what last year was and why it was so bad in comparison to what you're bringing in and why they were so successful at their other schools, then you feel like it's inevitable that it just has to be better. Plus, you have a new head coach who is going to hopefully have a little bit more of a, I don't know, modernized mindset, modernized strategy, modernized game plan in terms of how to efficiently score the basketball. I think all of that's going to help you just be better overall, but your three-point shooting will be better this year. Look at what last year was for this Indiana team. As a team, okay, as a team, you shoot it at 32% from behind the arc. That is combined for 2024 and 2025 season. You shot it at 32% as a team. That's not good. That's not good. And as I said, efficiency-wise, it's one of the worst in college basketball a year ago. And so then I propose you this quick question of, well, who do you think our best three-point shooters were last year? If you just had to spit out names just like that really quickly, who would you say? You would probably say Luke Goody, and you would be right. He was the best at 39%. His volume wasn't what we wanted it to be, but his make percentage was pretty good if they actually got him the basketball and he actually had a little bit of a window to shoot it, right? Your second guess would probably say either Trey Galloway or Mackenzie Mbako. You would also be right. Those two were in the low 30s. Nobody else was worth a damn. Nobody else was able to make a shot consistently from behind the arc. Not Miles Rice, not Malik Renew. None of these guys were able to shoot the basketball. I mean, you got guys like Anthony Leal were in there who could make one if they were actually playing and actually supposed to shoot the basketball, which that's not what they were supposed to do. Omar Paulo, of course, wasn't going to shoot the ball, and Cannon Carlisle was a flop and didn't actually play. And so your three-point game was nearly non-existent last year, which made you so one-dimensional, which was going down low. And everybody knew that we wanted to play through Omar Paulo and Malik Renew. That was no secret. It was pretty easy and simple to game plan against Mike Woodson's Indiana Hoosiers last year. I'm telling you, though, that's going to change. That's going to change because of what Darian DeVries wants to do, and it's going to change because of what he has brought in through the transfer portal. I'm going to read you some percentages of the guys who came in through the transfer portal this year who will instantly raise that average of a team 32% because of what they did a year ago. You have somebody like DeVries, who shot it, Tucker DeVries, of course, who shot it at 47% from behind the arc. That was in limited action, but he proved he could do it at Drake before he got injured when he was playing at West Virginia. He shot it at 47%. Lamar Wilkerson at 45%. He's probably one of the highest volume shooters on this list of guys that Indiana's bringing in. So not only does he have the volume, he's got the percentage, he's got the makes, he's got the consistency as well that will instantly be in your starting rotation. So Tucker DeVries at 47%, Lamar Wilkerson at 45%. How about Drake? Okay. How about Jason Drake, the Drexel transfer, who shot it at 40% last year? Another high percentage guy and another high volume shooter from the outside as well. The 6'2 guard from Drexel and Cleveland State. He steps in as a 40% three-point shooter. Then you've got a couple of guys who were hanging around the mid-30s. You've got Nick Dorn at 35%. He shot a lot of threes. Enright at 33%. Miles at 33.5%. Josiah Miles Harris at 33%. Notice how all of those were above what your team average was a year ago. And I understand that's not exactly how it works, but I'm telling you, you're bringing guys in who were all better shooters than what you had last year. Take out Luke Goody, who could still be on this team, by the way. We still don't know what the status is of him with the NCAA stuff. Everybody you're bringing in, other than your bigs, of course, a guy like Reed Bailey, I didn't put his percentages on here because he's not going to shoot a whole lot of these threes, and that's okay. Same thing with the Florida transfer. It's just not going to happen, right? But you bring in, how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is 7 names that I wrote down with their percentages from a year ago behind the three-point line that were over 33%. They were that would have been second or better on last year's team. The only one who has a better percentage was Luke Goody. That's it. That's the only one, was Luke Goody, who last year, what did I tell you? He shot it at 39%. I have 3 names on this list that shot it better than that. At a higher volume, too, by the way, with DeVries, Wilkerson, and Drake. DeVries throughout his career, but you know what I mean. So does that make sense? Does that make sense why it's impossible for the three-point shooting to not be better just because you have better players? You have better shooters, and you're going to have a better system. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to make Indiana a better basketball team. It's inevitable. It's impossible for it not to. And you are going to be a more dangerous team. You're going to be a more fun team. This team is going to be so much daggum fun to watch. They are going to be entertaining. They're going to be good. They're going to be talented. They're going to be competitive. That's what this team needs, because they didn't have that a year ago. They would get blown out in games because they would dig themselves a hole and they couldn't shoot their way out of it. They would try sometimes and they couldn't do it. And crazy enough, when one team's making threes and you're making twos, you just can't catch up. Three's more than two is what my school taught me back in the day. And Indiana a year ago couldn't figure that out. And then when they did, they just didn't have the dudes to knock them down consistently. Not to mention, in the games that were close down the stretch, if you needed a big three, you had no confidence in anybody to take the shot. It was Luke Goody. That was it. Mackenzie Mbako, I hope he does great at the next spot. But, man, we needed him to be better from back there. And other than that, that was it. I didn't trust Trey Galloway to shoot threes consistently. I didn't trust Miles Rice to shoot threes consistently. And the fact that we were hoping Malik Renew would shoot and make a three, that's how you know we were in desperate times. And so with the names on this list, plus don't forget about Trent Sisley, who steps in too, who's not a bad shooter himself, you're going to be better from behind the arc, which is going to make you a better team, a more fun team, and just overall is going to bring you more wins this season coming into 2025 and 2026. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we're flipping over to football for the final 2 segments because Curt Cignetti picks up another commit in the class of 2026. Plus, there's just no way we don't go over 8.5 wins this year, according to our friends at FanDuel. All that's coming up right here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be a part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. 6%. Those last minute deals are why I use Game Time, and I'm pulling something up for you, for a lot of you listeners right now. But you can save up to 60% off of buying last minute for sports, comedy, music, theater, whatever you want. You can get that on Game Time. I'm pulling it up right now. This episode comes out on May 8th. The next game for the Indiana Pacers and Cavaliers series, as they come back to Indy, you can get Game 3 tickets right now on Game Time. There are some available all over the place for really, really good pricing. I'm looking at it as we speak. You can get tickets for Game 3. You can get tickets for Game 4. You can even get tickets back in Cleveland if you want to make that trip. Or we may not even go back to Cleveland. They may just sweep the whole thing, right? You can get tickets right now on Game Time for Indiana Pacers basketball in the postseason. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Be sure you do that. Okay, terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back into a Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And my everydayers, you know who you are, so thank you so much for being here. And if you're watching on the YouTube side, you know the drill. Hit that thumbs up, like the video, tells me you like what's going on and you want more content like this. Also, leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments down below. Who's going to be the best three-point shooter on the team this year for Indiana basketball? Let me know your thoughts on that, plus your thoughts on Indiana football recruiting as well. And then subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And if you're listening on audio on your Spotify app or Pandora or Amazon, however you take it in, doesn't matter to me. I just appreciate you being there. So make sure that you are following us there or subscribed if you can and have those notifications turned on so you never miss a new episode. Well, Indiana football picks up another commit. Yes, another one in the class of 2026. Remember when we just had one and people were like, what's going on? Recruiting's kind of slow. Yep. Not anymore. Indiana picks up another commit in the class of 2026. It's a 3-star who is an athlete. He's listed as an athlete. Why? Because he plays both sides of the football in the high school level. You get a commitment from Trevor Gibbs. He is from here in the state of Indiana. He's from Crown Point High School. He commits to Indiana yesterday. Really, really excited about Trevor Gibbs. Okay. He is 6'4", 235 pounds. I told you he's listed as an athlete in most recruiting sites, whether it's On3, 247, whichever one you want to use. He is listed as an athlete, but in terms of his actual position ranking, they have him as a linebacker, okay? And he's considered one of the best players in the state of Indiana. He's a top 10 player in the state of Indiana, and listed as a linebacker across the country. And so he played both sides. He was of course, a linebacker in high school. He's also played a little D-line, a little edge in high school. He's also played some offense where he's been kind of a running back, receiver type of thing, just an athlete. That's pretty much the best way to describe it. I mean, he's one of those guys. When you have him on your team, you can play him anywhere. And yes, it is frowned upon by some to play somebody that many snaps, but when they can make a significant impact on both sides of the football at the high school level, sometimes you do what you got to do. And I'll tell you what, I don't know Trevor Gibbs personally, but most guys that do that, they do it because they want to. They do it because A, they know they can because they're good enough, but B, they do it because they're gamers, because they're ballers, and they want to do whatever it takes to help their team win. And sure, it goes in a benefit to them too, in terms of trying to get recruited to play at the next level. And clearly it worked, as he has picked Indiana to be his next home. So you get an in-state kid. That's your third commitment now here out of the state of Indiana. He chose the Hoosiers over likes of Purdue, Iowa, Cincinnati, Boston College. So never a bad day to beat Purdue, even in May when there's no sports going on. We got Purdue again, and it is this time with Trevor Gibbs. Now, the idea and the early buzz is that Trevor Gibbs was recruited to Indiana, and their idea is to use him as a defensive end. Could he end up being a linebacker? Sure. Could he end up being on the offensive side of the football? I guess so. It just kind of depends on what happens this coming season for him in high school. So I'm curious if he will focus on the defensive end spot, if that's where Indiana wants him, or if he will still continue to play both sides and maybe he develops as a linebacker or he develops as a big running back. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But the early word is that the Hoosiers are recruiting him to play as a defensive end and maybe an edge rusher type of guy. And look, I don't hate it. I think this is someone who is really talented. You just turn on the film and let it speak for itself because he can literally do it all. His size, though, is what just sticks out to me. Again, he's from Crown Point High School in Indiana, 6'4", 235. He's a big, big dude. And from what I can see, I can't speak to this legitimately, I guess, or fully rather, but most of it looks really lean. He's built. He's a big guy. And I would think in college, if they get him in and could make him fully lean, full muscle at 6'4", maybe go like 6'4", 220, 225, you could be a seriously good linebacker. Or if you want to put even more muscle on him and make him a little bit bigger, go 6'4", 250, then yeah, now you're starting to talk on that defensive line and put him as an edge rusher. And this dude's a beast, man. He just never stops. His motor seems to always be on. And that has to be the case when you never get a snap off unless there's special teams going on. So really excited about what Trevor Gibbs is going to bring to this Indiana recruiting class, and one that I've said and told you, domino effect, here it comes. You're now up to 8 commits in the class of 2026. Told you he is the third from the state of Indiana, along with Casimir Hicks. And then Blake Smith, the defensive lineman who committed a few days ago, up to 8 commits now in the 2026 class. One that went from 1 up to 8, just like that. And it's so crazy how this domino effect thing works. And I talk about it all the time. And some of you probably get tired of me saying it, but it really is true. All it takes is one. All it takes is for one guy to say, yeah, I think I do want to go play there. And Gibbs talked about how he took a visit and loved watching him practice and hanging out with the coaches. How many times have you heard these guys say that about Indiana? And he decided to commit. And that's contagious, man. Other guys hear that, they see that, and they want to be a part of it. And these guys clearly think that Indiana's got something special going on. You're loaded with 3 stars right now. And I know some of you don't want to hear that. Some of you say, well, Ohio State's got 5 stars. We got to get them to compete. Yeah, you're right. But it's year 2 for Curt Cignetti. And we're still building a reputation in Indiana. It doesn't happen overnight. Even when you do make a college football playoff, it still doesn't happen overnight. We've got the coach. We've got the facilities. We've got the money. Now we've got to build the reputation of, hey, you can come here. You can compete. You can play. You can win. But you can also get to the next level. And that's what we have to do. That's the process that we're in right now for Curt Cignetti and the Hoosiers. But there's nothing to be upset about with guys like Henry Olinger, Trevor Gibbs, Sam Simpson, the Wisconsin offensive lineman, where you've got several states represented. You're shooting up the team rankings. You're flirting with top 30 now across college football. We're nowhere near done. I think Indiana will have north of 20 guys in this 2026 class, and getting guys like Trevor Gibbs is a big deal. Why? Because they're from right here in the state. He's a top 10 player in Indiana. You needed him. You had to have him, and you got him. And you got him clearly over other teams around us that wanted him, like Purdue and Iowa and Cincinnati. You got him over other big programs where he can make an instant impact for them. He's going to do the same thing for you. Really excited about Trevor Gibbs. Again, the athlete in the class of 2026, 6'4", 235, can play edge, can play linebacker, can play on the offensive side. Indiana wants to use him as an edge rusher. We'll see if that ends up being the case when he gets here. But the Hoosiers are shooting up the recruiting rankings, and thanks to 3-star commit Trevor Gibbs from the state of Indiana. All right, coming up here in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, there's just no way. There's no way that Indiana doesn't go over that 8.5 win total that our friends at FanDuel gave us, right? I think it's a home run slam dunk. And I'll tell you why after this right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV 4K. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console is required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. With Wi-Fi 6 and 6E and auto low latency mode, advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds you need to stay competitive. And if you're a hardcore gamer like I am, I play on my PC a lot. I play on the Xbox some, but now with a Fire TV stick like that, the 4K stick, you can play anywhere you go. I travel a lot for work. I'm going to get one, take it to the hotel, plug it in the TV there, and boom, you've got your Xbox with you in any city in America. It's a game changer. It really, really is. For me to be able to play when I'm on the road, be able to take some stress off at night, laying in bed at the hotel, and I can play on my Xbox literally with a stick you put in the TV anywhere in the world. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller are required. Available on select devices including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd generation. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here. And we talked a little yesterday about the updated win projection totals from our friends at FanDuel. And 247 put an article together with all the teams from the Big Ten and the SEC combined, but the win projections are from our friends at FanDuel. So if you want to go check those out, so I actually encourage you to do so. But Indiana's win total was set at 8.5 post-spring going into 2025 for college football this year. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday. I'll admit we talked a lot about other teams, kind of going through them and rapid firing and giving some initial thoughts. And we'll do so again throughout the summer as we get closer to the football season. But I was thinking about this last night. 8.5 almost seems disrespectful to Indiana. And by the way, you need to make sure you're tuning into our Locked On Big Ten squad. We have another one coming up for you today, this afternoon here on the channel. Whether you're listening on audio or watch on video, you'll have that in your on your feed. So be sure you check that out, folks. We have more hosts on this week's show than we have in a long, long time. We had a lot of fun. We're going through every team in the Big Ten and giving our takes on their over-under win projections. Haven't done Indiana yet, but we had a lot of fun with this week. So be sure you check that out. But I was looking at this and thinking about it, and this 8.5 win total just seems disrespectful to Indiana, does it not? You've got a team that's coming off a college football playoff berth. You've got a team who is coming off a college football playoff berth that returns their head coach. You have a team that's coming off a college football playoff berth that's returning their head coach, that's returning most of their production on both sides of the football. And all they did was get better in the transfer portal, but yet they don't believe. They don't think we can do it. And I talked about this earlier this week, and I had to bring it back up because it just blows my mind. It blows my mind that they think Indiana can't win games again this year. And I will continue to make this a point. I'm not ready to predict that the Hoosiers get back to the college football playoff yet. I'm not ready to go there. But what I will do is use logic and statistics and facts to back up my confidence level that we're at least going over 8.5. We're at least going to have 9 wins, and we'll have a say-so come November on who does make the college football playoff and who does win the Big Ten. And I use that based off the roster that I've told you a lot about, but I use that also based off of the schedule that we have. And admittedly, last year's schedule wasn't difficult. Indiana, we did what we needed to do, and we got to the college football playoff. I think we can do it again this year. You're going to start 3-0 against Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State, right? You're going to start 3-0 there. You have an awesome game on September 20th against Illinois. I think it's a big game. I think Illinois is expected to, well, I'll say this. I know that Illinois is expected to be good this year. I'm not ready to buy in on them yet. And this early in the season, I'm not ready to buy in on them at all. So give me Indiana to win that game. I'm confident we could go on the road and beat Iowa. I think we could beat Michigan State and UCLA at home. I think we can beat Maryland at home. I think we can beat Purdue on the road. So for those of you counting at home, let's go through this. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, Illinois, Iowa. Boom, there's 5. Michigan State is 6. UCLA is 7. Maryland is 8. And Purdue is 9. That's it. That's it. You win the games you're supposed to, and you win 9 games. You go over your projected win total. Then all it takes is to get an upset win in Eugene, and you have 10 wins. You get an upset win in Happy Valley. You can have 11 wins. You beat Wisconsin at home, by the way, and you're undefeated. I'm not saying that's going to happen. But what I'm saying is 9 wins seems like a given, and 10 or 11 is very, very possible. Because how fun could that Wisconsin game be in the second to last game of the year? Wisconsin may be without their head coach at that point. They may have already told Luke Fickell to kick rocks and get out of Wisconsin, get out of Madison, right? So they may not even have a head coach at that point where you could take advantage and try to take down a Wisconsin team in Bloomington. That would be awesome, right? Then all it comes down to is getting an upset, whether it's in Eugene or Happy Valley. And those two teams are going to be so, so good. I get that. But here's what's crazy. You start talking college football playoff, you don't even have to win those games. You don't have to. It'd be nice. And I would like Indiana to win one of them to prove to us, to prove to themselves, to prove to college football that they can win those big games, because that was the argument a year ago was you didn't beat Ohio State, right? And so how are you going to beat a team like Notre Dame? And kind of the same issues came up in that Notre Dame game. There's no argument there. You beat either Penn State or Oregon at their house, that goes away. That argument is shut down immediately. Will Indiana win all those games I talked about? I don't know. Probably not. They will probably slip up somewhere. But my confidence level is in what I saw a year ago, and the fact that I think this team is just as good, if not better, than they were a year ago. And you've got the same coach, a very manageable schedule, and 8.5 seems like a gimme. So if you want to go check that out, be sure you do that with our friends at FanDuel.com. I just think there's no way that Indiana does not go over 8.5 wins this year in college football. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much again for being here. I cannot say it enough how much I appreciate you. Whether you listen, whether you watch, you support us on social media at Locked On Hoosiers on X. However you find us, doesn't matter to me. I'm just happy that you're here, okay? We're having so much fun here as we're really getting into some off-season stuff. And so be sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, like the video, subscribe over on your audio platforms, and turn on those notifications as well. We are back tomorrow, all right, Hoosier fans, to wrap up the week. So until then, stay safe. And I'll talk to you later.